Hey, Dave. How you doing? Good to see you, buddy. Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Toledo. As we begin our meeting today, I'd like to thank and acknowledge this month's sponsor, the Area Office on Aging, and Rotarian Justin Moore. Justin, was Justin? I didn't see him today either, but all right. Thank you, Justin. At this time, I'd like to ask Josh Stressel to come to the podium to deliver a reflection and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Let us give thanks for our meal today and the friends whom we share it. No matter what stresses there are in our lives, we are so fortunate to be able to come to Rotary and be greeted, be included, and be loved. Let us take those things to our world and unite the good. Remember that, unite the good. Now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. Thank you, Josh. As we get started here, does anyone have any guests that they would like to introduce today? Please bring them to the floor mic. Zach has the floor mic, and let us know who they are.
Yes.
Yeah, bring your guests too.
Hi, President Scott and fellow Rotarians. I'd like to introduce Chelsea Ziss. Chelsea is our Director of Digital Strategy at Inclusity.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Maria. Welcome, Chelsea.
Well, hello, President Scott and fellow Rotarians. I have a guest today. This is Dustin Watkins. He's the CEO at Harbor Behavioral, where I spent many years, and I'm just tickled that he's here, and he's looking forward to contemplating joining Rotary.
Great. Welcome, Dustin.
President Scott, it's my pleasure to introduce Chris Murphy with our company, Miller Diversified. Chris is a commercial real estate agent with us. So
Great. Thank you, Hunt. Welcome, Chris. All right, well, thank you all for joining us today. I'd also like to take a moment to thank those who were greeters today. We really appreciate your help. If you were a greeter, could you please stand up just for a moment? Thank you. Appreciate it. If you'd like to sign up to be a greeter, we've got a link for it, so check the spoke. Would Zara Collins, the chair of our membership committee, please come to the podium? I'm not sure if I saw her. It's Karen. Okay. Oh, it's Mo. Good. Even better. I tried to wrangle Mo when Zara wanted to do this last week, do this again. I tried to wrangle Mo into it, and he's like, no, she can do it. I was like, no, Mo, it's your turn.
So I was counting on Zara to do it today, too. She just texted me, flat tire, you're on. So we just want to remind you of the check-in feature that we have. Please use it to let us know that you're here. Also, we're going to be using it for any future events we're going to be doing. So there is an option there for you to take pictures, take selfies. So let's celebrate being here. There is a QR code on your desk that you can also use to take you right to the screen that you're seeing. So, and next week you'll have Zara, maybe. No flat tires, hopefully.
Thank you, Mo. Appreciate it. Short notice. Good job. Also, we've I did this last week too. Posted a picture. I think I forget who I was sitting with. It was Max. And then also we had 60 people check in last week for the meeting. So way to go. Thank you, members. You guys are really paying attention. We appreciate it. Don't forget that they're doing this to kind of reflect and show people's participation, your engagement. You can do it at a committee meeting. You can do it at other events that you're at for Toledo Rotary. And at the end of the year, I'm sure Mo and Zara are going to come up with some great prizes for everybody. So whoever's the most engaged. Julie Woods, would you please come to the podium? Julie's this year's vice chair for the Environmental Committee, and she has a volunteer opportunity announcement.
Hello, everyone. On Monday, August 25th, mark your calendars, from 4:30 to 6:30, we will be doing a Literally pickup So wear comfortable clothing, tennis shoes, get ready to clean up some litter. We will have bags and the safety vests and, pick up things and all of that stuff. We are still determining the location, so keep a lookout on the spoke for that. But Monday, August 25th from 4:30 to 6:30, we will be doing litter cleanup as part of the Toledo Litter League. So please come out and help our city become even more beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. What? And we're in second place right now for Little League? Okay, yeah, second place. We can pick that up. That's for sure. That's better than I feel like we've been in sixth before, and so that's a really great start for us. That's fantastic. All right. As you can see, our committees are already connecting members and getting them engaged in the community and in our projects. Everybody's really active. There's been a flurry of committee meetings with the new chairs already. So if you haven't joined a committee or made it to a committee meeting, please pay attention to those. They're listed in the spoke on the calendar, which is the last page of the spoke. And otherwise, next Tuesday, we're going to engage in past President Kevin's draft night for the committee chairs and vice chairs, and they're going to draft folks in this room and others to be a member of their committee. So you might be hearing from people after that. So appreciate it. All right, let's get to today's program. Bob, would you please join me up here at the podium? I appreciate it. Bob Borcherdt has over 35 years of experience as a strategist, innovative thinker, business owner, and leadership consultant. His deep passion for people and leadership led him to start Integrate in 2011 to help organizations grow by building better leaders. Since then, the firm has grown to include a powerful human analytics platform and a team that specializes in implementing their leadership development systems. Bob has worked with CEOs of large companies, business owners, professional sports coaches, and other leaders at all levels. In 2023, he created the Clarity-Based Leadership System and co-authored the book Leading to the One, Creating Cultures of Clarity Where People Are Engaged, Developed, and Fulfilled. Today, Bob is going to talk to us about the hidden drain on the bottom line of every organization. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, President Scott. I hope it's okay. I like to wander up here. So I will walk around a fair amount, get my steps in for today. It's really great to be here. Appreciate the offer and the opportunity to be here. And I guess I can say this, but maybe shouldn't say this, but I was a Rotarian for 10 years. The good news is, as I was a Rotarian, the bad news is I guess it's in the past tense, right? And everyone's wondering, why are you not a Rotarian? Long family story, don't have time to tell it today, but served in the Archbold Rotary Club. Anybody know Archbold, Ohio? Yeah, worked at Souder for 10 years and was a past president of Archbold Rotary. Hello, Mr. Stocking. It's great to see you today. Judy's here, looking forward to seeing you. And so a couple guests that I brought with me, my wife Judy, if you could raise your hand. Yeah. Former employee of Principal Business Enterprises and serving with the Stockings for a long time. Nikki McLeod, president of Integrate, and Dave Dorner, executive vice president of Integrate. I know, everybody knows Dave, right? It's like everybody knows Raymond, it's Cheers, it's just Dave. So, but great to be here. And I'm really, really excited to talk about this topic. I've actually been talking about it for about 5 years, but the message continues to get more and more honed. And it's a big topic. And I'm going to challenge you a little bit today. And I'm going to challenge some of your mindsets on the way we see this human capital situation that we find ourselves in as organizational leaders. Now, here's the good news. How many of you, by show of hands, work in an organization with more than 100 employees? Raise your hand. Big and tall. Okay, fair number. Most of us probably work in small organizations, right? How many of you are in the nonprofit space? And that doesn't mean you have a business that isn't making money. How many of you are, okay, so a fair number of nonprofits here. Here's the cool thing about what we're going to talk about today. I don't care what size organization you're in, big or small. You could be a solopreneur. You could be for-profit, not-for-profit. It could be you leading a family unit or just you individually. Everything we're going to go over today applies. So I need you to think that way first, okay? I need you to think through what's the application to my situation. Because if you leave here today and don't do something with what I give you, I'm gonna be really disappointed. Because we do that, right? We go hear people talk, and then we go back to our jobs, and then we just do the exact same thing, and we keep expecting things to be different. So my hope is today that you walk out of here with a couple of ideas and a couple of solutions to this challenge that we face, this thing that we've diagnosed called unused human capacity. And it's a drain on our bottom line. So here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to define for you the problem. I'm going to share with you the cost of the problem to your organizations. Again, it doesn't matter whether you're a for-profit or not-for-profit. All of us have a top line and all of us spend money, right? And in the end, the top line has to be bigger than the amount we spend, unless you're the federal government. You're allowed to do it other ways, okay? Apparently. So all of us have that issue. Performance and productivity is front of mind for all of us, even for us individually. So we're going to go through this problem. I'm going to share with you the cost of the problem to your organization. I'm going to share with you the solution to the problem. And then I'm going to tell you the objections and how we overcome the objections. And then I'm going to give you a deeper look into some of the solutions. I will leave time at the end for Q&A. So store up your questions because I'm sure you'll probably have some. And I'm going to right up front ask that you forgive me if I say something that you find difficult to understand or reason with or even accept. That might happen today. Please understand the intent with which it's given, because I really do want to challenge our mindsets on this topic of people. Fair enough? So those are the ground rules going in, and roll up our sleeves, and we're gonna get at it. So most of you are familiar with the P&L statement, right? Whether you're responsible for one, or you got educated in one, or you're just familiar with one. Let me ask you a question. How many of you in this room, by show of hands, have ever seen any financial statement that has a line item for unused human capacity? It's the same every time I talk. It's a bit of a rhetorical question, right? Any accountants in the room? It's not a generally accepted accounting principle, is it, to have a line item for unused human capacity? You're laughing and shaking your head no. Now let me ask you this question. How many of you have it in your organizations? Raise your hand. Isn't it crazy that intuitively we know it exists, but we have no measurement for it? I want you to think about that, because most of us probably got trained that you can only improve what you measure. I'm actually going to tell you, I don't think that's true. Judy and I just celebrated our 40th anniversary. Do I think our relationship has improved? Yes. Can I give you all the measurements that we tracked to do that? Like date nights have gone up 2.7% in the last 12 months. The trailing 12-month average of our disagreements is down 4.2%. Like, you don't look at relationships that way, do you? So in business, we have this mindset that says, oh, well, to improve something, we have to be able to measure it. What if I'm going to tell you that the problem that we're going to talk about today is super hard to measure? So hold that thought. Now, if anybody here in the manufacturing space, show of hands, a handful of you, if you have a machine at 50% capacity, and you can get that machine to 85% capacity, do you know what it does to your bottom line? Yeah, the accountant in the room can probably calculate it to the right side of the decimal point. You know your profits are going to go up if you get that machine from 50% to 80% capacity, right? Why is that not true for these people? We all know it in the manufacturing space. We all know it as it relates to machines. Why do we not understand the very same concept about human beings? The reason being, human beings don't walk around like your cell phone battery. You don't instantly get to see, is this person at 50% capacity right now, 20%, 80%? And by the way, this has nothing to do with wringing every last bit of performance out of your people. That is not the purpose of this at all. It's not the goal. The problem is, machines are complicated. They can be fixed. You can solve for that. Human beings are complex. And you can't solve and fix human beings. You can only learn to navigate life with them. And so as we interact and engage with these people in our organizations, we have to keep that thought in mind. Now, I'm going to tell something on our industry. I'm going to make a confession to you. So I would say we're in the leadership development space. And when I started the business, we did a lot of leadership development for companies, which I actually found out was a really bad idea. Because what they really needed were the systems so they could do the developing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit here. But here's the problem with the industry that I'm in. Our industry they will sell you solutions all day long on how to treat the symptoms. But they won't talk to you about the root cause. We can do trust falls all day long. Ain't gonna change a dang thing. Okay? The evidence is conclusive. The research is thorough. The way we have developed, particularly adult human beings, in organizational space has been proven to not have a return on investment. So all of you who own organizations or run organizations or have bottom line responsibility, think about that one. It doesn't produce an ROI. Now, that's not the only reason you develop your people, is to make more money. But it's a pretty doggone important one, isn't it? So the problem is we can treat symptoms all day long, and our industry does. I'm going to challenge you today to get to the root cause, and I'm actually going to show you the root cause of a couple of these issues. So when you think about this hidden drain, one, you don't know it's there because it's hidden. Two, it's something you've probably never heard the term, unused human capacity, and yet it's impacting your performance, your productivity, and your profitability. Why are we not like pulling the cord in our organizations going, we got to start talking about this? Because I'm going to be honest with you, nobody's talking about it this way. We're talking about people, and we're talking about engagement till we're blue in the face, and that number just keeps going down. The more we talk about it, the lower the number goes. The more we measure it, the lower the number goes. It's a pretty important deal. So we have a bit of a challenge. You have this thing called unused human capacity. It's draining your bottom line, and I'm going to give you the actual numbers on what it's doing. We don't have a line item to measure it. You don't have solutions for it. And the industry that you're going to turn to potentially for solutions is going to sell you things to treat symptoms and not root cause. How's everybody feeling? Feel pretty good about that? Okay, that's the end of my talk. That doesn't sound very good, does it? Until now. Until now. And I'm going to tell you, we've been watching this for 5 years. We've been testing it. We've been implementing things. And there are things we could be doing and should be doing. But what's easier, treating symptoms or root causes? It's always easier to treat symptoms, isn't it? It's not as much work. It's not as hard. If you could put this in a pill or a shot, that'd be the ideal way to take this, I could swallow it that way. So I just want you to keep those things in mind, okay? So here's the problem that we have. Here's root cause number one. Root cause number one is we have underdeveloped leaders at all levels in our organizations. Those underdeveloped leaders create what we call organizational confusion, which results in disengaged, underdeveloped, and unfulfilled employees, and that impacts performance, productivity, and profitability. The statistics are out there. I'm not making this stuff up. We have underdeveloped leaders, they create organizational confusion, and it's resulting in employees who are disengaged, underdeveloped, and unfulfilled. Okay? That's root cause number one. So we're going to dive into each of those. When we say performance, we're talking about the way we do things. When we say productivity, that's the results we get from our performance, and profitability is the reward. So think of the way you do something, the results you get from that, and the reward you get from those results. That's how we define those three words. Now, here's root cause number two. If you look at this illustration, you'll notice on the left-hand side, two words, interact and understand. And on the right-hand side, engaged, developed, and fulfilled. This is a pretty serious root cause problem. Most leaders, and I say that hesitantly, have probably either learned or been trained how to understand and interact with other people. Most of them have been trained to understand themselves and how to interact with people accordingly. And that statement might be a little loose. I see some head nodding. Is it the same thing to interact with somebody as it is to engage with them? When Judy and I dated, we were interacting. When we got married, do you have the privilege, for those of you that have been married or are married, is it the same game? Are we just interacting and, no, you really got to get to know this person, right? You got to go much deeper. There's no more scuba dive, or there's no more snorkeling in this relationship. It's time to scuba dive. And now we really start to learn about each other. Gallup how many of you are familiar with Gallup in the engagement data? Most of you probably, right? Some of you probably even use the surveys. Gallup's been tracking this for 2.5 decades. And here's what's interesting. Not only is it not getting better, if you notice the last report, it's getting worse. In this country, 30% of employees are engaged in their work. 70% are disengaged at some varying level. Globally, only 21% of employees are engaged. Can I just ask you a simple question? Could we please, and I'm begging you, could we please actually start working on the right issue? And it's not the color of the rooms, it's not the nap pods, it's not remote versus in office, that's not the stuff, that's symptomatic stuff. We try and solve all this stuff with treating symptoms. Here's root cause number 2. I will submit to you that most leaders, and by the way, when I say leader, that's at any level in the organization, that's upper level, management, supervisor. If you have influence and responsibility of people, I put you in that category. Frankly, you also lead yourself. And I'm the worst boss I've ever had. So you've got that issue too, right? Some of us are leaders in our communities. Some of us are presidents of Rotaries, and we're in all kinds of leadership roles. Here's the root cause issue. Most leaders don't know how to go from interacting to engaging. I want you to just think about that for a second. Most leaders don't know how to, it's a know-how thing, to go from interacting to engaging. And do you wonder why we have an engagement problem? And do you wonder why it's getting worse? We are not addressing the issue, people. And every chance I keynote, I tell people, if you do not have the resources to measure engagement and fix it, then please stop measuring it and start putting the money towards fixing it. You'll be far further ahead. We've measured this thing to death, but you can't fix what you haven't identified. And the issue at hand is we have to help leaders cross that. I don't blame the leaders for it. I don't think it's the leader's fault. I don't think it's been the expectation of the role. I don't think most of us have taken the time to really understand it. I don't think we've understood the financial ramifications to the organization. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about how to solve this particular issue. Now, I mentioned to you cost. How many numbers people in the room? A few of you? Okay. How many of you remember John Savage? And even enough of you in the room, John was my very first mentor in life, had a huge impact on my life. I'm gonna start giving you some statistics and some numbers, but John always cautioned me with statistics. He said at that time, 1 out of 3 children born in the world were Chinese, and he had 9, and he and Kate had 9, and none of them were Chinese. So he said, always be careful with numbers, okay? Is that a John Savageism or what? For those of you that remember John? So let's talk about some numbers. This is from Gallup, and underdeveloped leaders at all levels, you see that highlighted. Here's the impact on your organization. Just this one issue is gonna lower your productivity by 20%, your profitability by 23%. You're gonna have 50% higher turnover and 63% more safety incidents. And oh, by the way, your team's evaluation on how well it's doing, 70% of that's gonna be directly attributed to the person leading the team. Now, why would we be investing money in anything other than this? I have no idea. The problem is I think we've invested incorrectly into things that haven't given us a return. That's just number 1, underdeveloped leaders. Let's go to number 2, organizational confusion. There was a poll done, we're gonna skip to disengaged employees. Disengaged employees also, according to Gallup, are costing your organization $14,000 per person, per year. $14,000 per person per year. By the way, if you want to know what this number is, just take your EBITDA and realize it's 23% lower than it could be, and do the math. And the last I looked 2 weeks ago, the mean average of EBITDA per employee in the US is $30,000 per person per year. Okay, so the numbers are starting to add up, right? Disengagement, 14,000. Organizational confusion. According to the Grammarly-Harris poll, companies above 100 employees, it's $12,500 per year just in poor communication skills, which is really the root cause of confusion. Poor communication skills in our organizations, for those of you that raised your hand 100 and above, are costing you $12,500 per employee per year. If you're less than 100, it's $4,200 per employee. And by the way, this doesn't care whether you're a for-profit or a not-for-profit. It doesn't. It's the same, it's people. You add just those three numbers together conservatively, and if you're an organization of 100 or more people, it's costing you $35,000 per employee per year. If it's less than 100 people, it's costing you about $25,000. Anybody interested in that money? Anybody interested, any nonprofits interested in becoming more productive and maybe being able to add more staff with the money that you have? Like, that's what we're talking about, right? Now again, please hear me. We are not here advocating that this is just about the money. Do you hear that? Seriously, like crystal clear. This is not about wringing as much money as we can make out of people. I am adamantly opposed to that concept. Because guess what happens when we do this right? Your employees are more fulfilled. When they're more engaged, when they're being led by a leader who knows how to engage with them and can create an environment for their development and fulfillment, what do you think happens to those people? They're like, hey, I kind of like working here. This is kind of a good place. They really care about me. They're invested. My leader really knows me. Okay? So do you see what's going on? This is the challenge we face. So to solve the problem, we have to build better leaders at all levels. They have to create cultures of clarity. Then we create an environment for their people to be engaged and developed, and it only, please hear me clearly, it only happens in effective one-on-ones. This whole thing is coming down to effective one-on-ones. You want to demoralize an employee? Keep canceling your one-on-one meetings or don't even have them. Jim Clifton is the former CEO of Gallup, now the chairman, on a podcast about 1.5 years ago, was lamenting the fact that he spent the last 25 years tracking this engagement issue. And the chief scientist one day looked at him and said, Jim, I think I figured it out. I think we can solve the whole issue if leaders would just have one meaningful conversation per day with the people that report to them. Or per week, I'm sorry. One meaningful conversation per week with the people in your sphere would change all of it. And I'm not talking about tracking KPIs, and those are important. I'm talking about meaningful conversations. So the solution to the root cause is we've got to build better leaders at all levels. We have to teach them how to create cultures of clarity. That's where people are going to get engaged, developed, and fulfilled, and it's going to happen in your one-on-one. Are you seeing the path forward? Okay? Now, let's talk about all the objections, because I've heard them all. I don't have time for that. I'm already way too busy. Bob, you don't understand. In my business, I get paid to generate results. And you can see others up here. My favorite one, it's HR's job. Okay, we're going to talk about that for a second. And again, please hear me clearly and hear the intent of what I'm about to say. Solving this problem is not the job of your HR department. If it is, you're wildly off course. It is the leader's job. This is when all the HR people stand up and give me a standing ovation. It is the leader's job to lead their people, create a culture for them to be developed. It is not HR's job, and I'll tell you who else's job it's not. It's not our job. It's treating symptoms if we come in and develop your people. It's the leader's responsibility. It's not HR. HR has a role and a function. It's not this. And we have to get back to that. This is the way it used to be. And it'll make more sense in a second here. So I've heard all the objections. Another favorite one, we already do one-on-ones, and then when you break it down, it's like, those aren't the kind of one-on-ones we're talking about. So we had to create a whole template, just a simple system on how to lead effective one-on-ones. Okay, so here are some things that we're going to have to rethink. Those are the objections. Two things I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to rethink the way we develop people, okay? And the first thing we have to do is what I just said, is this is leader-led and individually owned. In other words, you own your own development as a human being. It's nobody's responsibility but your own. If you're in an organization and report to somebody that isn't creating that type of environment, you don't get to play the victim. You got to figure out another way. But I'm telling you, it's the leader's responsibility to create those environments. You with me on that? Number one thing, the mindset we have to change, because oftentimes the way we see the problem is actually the problem. It's not the problem that's the problem, it's the way we're looking at the problem. And we've got to see this problem differently. Number two, it has to be in bite-sized pieces and in the flow of work. That's where development's going to happen. Bite-sized pieces, we can only bite off so much at a time, in the flow of work. This is not an academic pursuit. This is not a seminar-based pursuit. This is not a content-based pursuit. I want you to think of apprenticeship. How do we train electricians and plumbers and people like that? On the job, don't we? And most of us, I think if we admit it, could probably identify, I named one in my life, that was John Savage, identify the people closest to us that walked with us in that bite-size, in the flow of work concept that had a significant impact on our lives. That's the second thing we have to think about. Third, it's all going to come down to your one-on-one interactions. That is the catalyst for development. And then lastly, it's got to be personalized, what we call development by design. How many of you remember Stephen Covey? Remember the 7 habits? Huge impact on my life. Habit number 1, be proactive. How does that resonate with the person? 70% of the population is not proactive. Did you know that? 70% of the population is responsive. What do you do when you tell somebody, I just need you to be more proactive, and they're not wired that way? So if we don't understand their behavioral DNA and how they're hardwired, we can't, it's actually malpractice to try and develop somebody without that information. Okay? Second example, boy, great leaders are highly collaborative. What do you do when 50% of the population doesn't like to work collaboratively? They like to work independently. How many of you who like to work independently have felt guilty because when someone says we got to be more collaborative, it just doesn't connect with you. It doesn't connect with your hardwiring, right? Right before COVID hit, the third example I give you is a book I found in the airport. It said, great leaders have no rules. What about close to 50% of the population that needs rules and structure in what they do every day? Rules are critically important to them. You know what that guru just told that person? Oh, if you like rules, you can't be a great leader. Sorry about your luck. Because the great ones, they don't like the rules. Does that make sense? We're all hardwired a certain way. Things resonate with us differently when we hear them. If you can't think about understanding the depth of who you are as a person and how you're hardwired, it's impossible to begin that development journey. I love the concept of mentoring. It's one of the challenges of mentoring, and that is if your mentor just tells you the way they did it, that's great if you're exactly like them. But what if you're wired completely opposite of your mentor? More research. If you put an employee in a role, because what we're talking about now is adaptation, the thing that EQ will promote but never really talk to you deeply about. If we put somebody in a role, and as human beings we have the ability to adapt, but if they have to adapt more than 20 hours per week, according to the research, you have them on the path to burnout. So do we wonder why we're losing capacity? Because we're not doing a good job of getting people in the right roles, in a place where they're going to thrive. Okay? Second thing, mindset we need to change is I want to ask us to re-engage humanity. Particularly at this time in the history of civilization, we have to get back to people. I'm not anti-AI. I'm not the guy that thinks they're going to turn into transformers and take over the world. Like, I'm not that guy. It'll have a place in all of our businesses, I'm sure, just like electricity does and just like the internet does. But I'm asking you, if we're going to solve this drain on our bottom line, it's about understanding and engaging with humanity. This is a great quote from Erwin McManus. We've turned leadership into a domain of knowledge without ever paying attention to what it means to be human. If you're a leader, your expertise should not be in leadership. Your expertise should be humanity. The secret to this is understanding people. Okay? Buckminster Fuller said, you never change something by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. So that's what we did. We just set out with the old models. We're going to build our own models. I had to wrestle through the voice on my shoulder that said, you're just a nobody from Sylvania, Ohio. Like, why would you be able to do this? It's been 5 years of fighting through that voice. And I actually think we have something pretty good. It's proving that it's working with our clients. But it's a lot of work for them to do. So we created the Clarity-Based Leadership System, and it's a system that gets implemented. It's like training wheels. You have to have systems to learn how to do something that's not naturally comfortable to you. And at some point, when you feel safer and more secure, you take the wheels off and the system just happens naturally. Nobody has to teach us how to breathe, and it can become one of those things. And so as I wrap up, here are the 3 systems that we have created. Let's go through the clarity model. Remember I said organizational clarity, right? How do we do that? Well, we had to create a model. It was interesting 5 years ago when I started talking to CEOs and owners of businesses, and they would be like, man, that is exactly right. Hey, by the way, I don't know how to do that. Can you put together 3 steps? I just loved the humility of leaders going, I'm not really good at that. How about creating 3 steps to doing it? So that's what we did. So when you think about the clarity model, awareness, expectations, and feedback. Anybody here familiar with Dr. Tasha Eurich? She did a study on self-awareness. 85% of the people thought they were highly self-aware. Turns out in her study, only 11% were. Her theory is most of us walk around lying to ourselves. And so we, as human beings, lack self-awareness, and we lack awareness of others, and we lack situational awareness. And if we're really going to be good at the people thing, we got to start developing those things. That's why we start with awareness. Number 2, expectations. If you want to write this one down, I would recommend you do it. I dare you to put it on your refrigerator, and that is that the greatest source of frustration is an unmet expectation. The greatest source of frustration is an unmet expectation. Think about every area of your life. I think about it as a husband. I think about it as a father. I think of it as a grandpa. I think of it in business. And the sad part is, we discovered in this process, we're just not really good at setting expectations with each other. And oh, by the way, they're bidirectional. So if you're in a reporting situation and you report to me, you have expectations of me, don't you? And you should have the right to express those expectations. I sat in front of 23 hockey players up in Detroit a year ago with the Detroit Red Wings, and I asked them, have you ever had the opportunity to communicate to your assistant coaches and head coach what you expect of them as leaders? Nope. I mean, come on, guys, this is low-hanging fruit. This is not rocket science. It's a simple system, but just because it's common sense doesn't make it common practice. So expectations, mutual expectations are critical. Third, feedback. I grew up in an era where I was lucky to get feedback once a year. I actually had one boss one time tell me, you're doing a good job till I tell you you're not. That was feedback in the 1980s. okay? Some of you can probably relate to that, right? We're going to do a little flashback in time. According to the research, today, regardless of age or generation, 54% of your employees want feedback at least every 2 weeks. You say that to people in my age group, and they're like, what on earth are we going to talk about every 2 weeks? How about our mutually shared expectations and how we're doing on those? Like, am I meeting your expectations as your leader? How did I do the last 2 weeks? Give me some feedback on that. Okay? That's the clarity model. Not hard to learn, not hard to understand, a little bit hard to do, but remember, we're treating root causes here, not symptoms, right? If we wanted to treat the symptoms, I'd say just keep sending your people to conflict resolution seminars and stuff like that, and accountability seminars, but this is where the real issue lies. Secondly, once we kind of expose this hidden drain and we help our clients install what we call the clarity model, we help them launch what we call leading to the one. And that's the one-on-ones. And that concept came for me from being a dad of 4 sons. And I tell people all the time, anybody here have multiple children? Fair amount of you. You know what I mean. Being a dad of 4 boys was not hard. And did we have them all in 5 years? And no wonder my brain's numb. Yes, we had 4 boys in 5 years. Yes, biologically. And, but I tell people, being a dad of 4 boys wasn't hard. What was really hard was being 4 different dads to 4 different sons. And those of you that have multiple children know exactly what I'm talking about. I did not get the right to show up every day and just be the same old Bob dad to all 4 of my boys. And I'm grateful that at some point along the way I learned that lesson. That, folks, is the essence of leadership today. You do not have the right to show up and just be the same old you every day, regardless of who's reporting to you and who you're engaging with. Is this making sense? So all we did with leading to the one is we took the clarity model, put the one-on-one at the center, said this is the magnet that pulls all of this together. Because that's where it's all going to happen. We're going to understand each other at a deeper level. We're going to set mutual expectations. And we're going to learn to give each other really good feedback. We call it developmental feedback. Okay? So, we've identified the problem, the hidden drain on our bottom line. We've talked about the associated costs. Have we done that? I've given you solutions to the problem. There are now systems out there available to help solve the problem, but you have to get to the root cause, not the symptoms. I've shared with you the objections, and now the choice is yours. Because now you know. Now that you know, something has to change. Because you can't go back to work this afternoon and complain about your people. Because now you know. So there are some things that we can do. Okay, questions. Do we want to have a roving mic? How do we do that?
What an absolutely incredible presentation. I'm glad that there's 15 minutes for questions.
Thank you. You just can't use all 15.
No, I won't. I pinky promise. I pinky promise. And I was talking to Nikki earlier, so I'm a maverick, just so you have a little context, okay?
Great.
So hypothetically...
I'm going to hide behind the podium now that
yes,
you're a maverick.
Feel
okay?
free. And if you haven't looked up the predictive index Maverick, just look it up and you will know me a lot better. A lot of the people in this room who know me will go, that makes perfect sense. So hypothetically, say that you like to be someone who challenges the process and looks at things differently, and you work really hard to utilize a lot of what you've presented today.
Yep.
And you get met with an ego of, you need to stay in your own lane.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah. Take a nap.
Yeah?
That's probably the first thing.
Any other things to
Yes.
take?
Yeah. I wouldn't be an advocate for that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding.
Well,
Obviously.
I think this is, tell me your name.
I'm Julia.
Julia, thank you,
Yes.
Julia. You know, Julia, these are the hard situations that we find ourselves in leadership roles and in reporting to leaders. And there has to be some way to break that ice in that conversation, right? You have to have the opportunity. And by the way, as a female maverick, you have it even more difficult.
Awesome.
Which is really still hard to say in 2025,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But there are still certain cultural expectations of women that you have to fight through that a male maverick doesn't. And it's really unfortunate. It's one of my pet peeves. But I think you got to be able to start having honest conversations with this person that you're meeting. Is it a person you're meeting with resistance?
Yes. It's a direct lead. Yep.
Yeah, you have to start to be able to have honest conversations. And if you can't have those level of honest conversations, then you got to start thinking, where do I need to be?
Yeah, and I think it is so interesting, and there's been a couple different organizations I've worked for, so I'm saying a general thing here, folks, because a lot of you know me. It is very interesting when you go with a good heart and you try to break down the barriers to have an honest conversation,
Yeah.
and you get that door shut in your face to go,
Yes.
that's above your pay grade, and it's already being taken care of,
Right.
and you don't, so, okay.
Stay in your swim lane, right?
Yeah, stay in the swim lane, so.
And if there's more inside of you than that, so this is why I'm saying what leaders have to create is an environment for you to develop. If they're not willing to create the environment, it's kind of tough for development to happen there, so you're gonna have to find it in other places. Sometimes people find it outside of their jobs too, which is another option. But it's not about the leader actually developing you, it's about creating an environment where you can kind of spread your wings and develop.
Yeah, marvelous,
Yeah,
thank you so
Great question,
much.
thank you.
Julia and I must think a little bit alike, because my question was very similar to hers as well. But I think that going to your leadership and saying, hey, this is something that I need, and then they don't reciprocate, or maybe they don't know how to reciprocate that, to give that to you, is that when you, like, I'll use myself as an example. So what I say, like, well, I learned about all this stuff, and you know, you
Sure,
got to meet with Bob,
blame
or like,
Bob. Yeah.
so is that what an employee can do? Because if the leadership is like, oh, that's a bunch of BS,
Right.
then there's nothing, like, what do you do as an employee?
Yeah, and that's another great question. And that's why our entry point into organizations is typically not HR, because we don't think it's an HR topic. We think it's a leadership topic. And that has to start at the top of the organization. And you know, ultimately, remember, and I have tremendous grace for people that are in leadership roles, especially at the highest levels of our organization. I think it's super, super hard. And I think it's incredibly lonely. So I'm always willing to not call them the villain in the story. I think most of them have good hearts. I think they just don't know. And Mark Twain said something once. He said, it's not what you don't know that hurts you, it's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And I think a lot of leaders just are rooted in things that they know for sure that just are no longer true. And it's hard to break those mental maps in people. And I mean, I wouldn't go running the door down. You know, I would probably take a more delicate approach than that, but just to say, look, here's what I'm learning about myself. Here's where I think I can flourish in the organization. And some of you may remember that I had the opportunity to play basketball at the University of Toledo in the early 80s for Bob Nichols. Some of you that are old enough in the room to go back to that era. And I remember my dad always telling me, it's up to you to determine how much playing time you have. It's not up to the coaches. It's up to you. And so I think it's up to you to figure out how to navigate that successfully, but you can't play the victim in the process. And it's easy to blame the leader. I just don't think most of them know. And I'll cut somebody some grace for not knowing. Now, if they're not willing to be educated, a little bit of a different deal.
Bob, Tom Daniels from Knight Insurance Group. First of all, thanks for your presentation today. Interestingly enough, I've been doing some similar research in terms of...
I saw you nodding your head back there.
Yeah, so in fact, I did a presentation a couple weeks ago, but interesting you brought up the Gallup data, because yes, in 2024, 30% engagement, which is the lowest it's been in about 15 years.
Yep.
Now, interestingly enough, the highest it's been in a really long time was in 2020. It was all the way up to 36%.
Right.
So thinking in 2020 it was COVID. Now, interesting enough, one of the other pieces of data that Gallup started collecting about 2008 was on well-being.
Yes.
In 2024, it was employees, my organization cares about my well-being, was 24% in 2024. In 2020, it was 47%.
Going the wrong way.
So we're clearly going the wrong way, but I believe it goes back to humanity because of exactly what you talked about. Because in 2020, when we called, because we weren't meeting in person, when we called our direct reports, we said, hey, how are you?
Yes.
How are your family? How are your kids? We cared, we took the time to care.
That's right.
And now we're back to business as usual, and the numbers show it.
And it didn't take long after COVID and after remote work for the number to drop below where it was before we went into COVID. Because we thought remote work might bump that a little bit, and it actually didn't. And you make a very good point about the wellness of human beings, and that's ultimately what we're talking about here. If we create environments for them to be at their best, they're going to thrive. Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, that again, I think as long as leaders think this is an HR responsibility, we're never going to get this solved, because HR doesn't even have the time and the capacity to do all of this. We have to push that back to the leader and go, no, you got to create these. Actually, we would even say no one organization, regardless of size, has one culture. You have microcultures, because leaders are responsible for creating culture. So we think it's the leader's job to create a culture where people can be healthy, whole, well, and thrive and be at their best. But that takes some work, Tom. Thank you. Yes?
Hey, Bob. Thank you for your time. I'm faculty over at Defiance College. It's Mike Vanderpool. Talking to some of my peers, this is something that we're facing in our classrooms as well, with engagement and motivation, specifically from young men. I'm curious any advice you might have for my group of college faculty as leaders. And then a second question, can we hang out sometime to talk deeper about that one?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. What are you guys finding at the college as to why you think that's happening?
It's just an accepted reality that I don't think anyone actually is trying to solve and really understand what that is, in all honesty.
Yeah. I have one.
And just to give you some examples, they're participating less than the female population. They're doing the minimal amount of work as possible.
Yeah.
And again, it's a generalization. It's not everybody, but we're noticing that trend.
Yeah. And I will just be really honest with you, I'm not an expert in that space. And so I don't have, unfortunately, much to contribute to it other than one simple thing that a mentor of mine shared with me probably about a year ago. He said, in this particular case, he was relating it to the development of males in our society. And he said, in your 20s, you develop as a warrior. In your 30s, you become a wounded warrior. Does that resonate, Chuck? Chuck, I recognized the laugh when I heard it. That's pretty good. And so in your 30s, you're a wounded warrior. In your 40s, you finally reach the age of maturity. And until you're in your 50s, you don't become a sage filled with wisdom. And I think one of the problems we have with the youth today, and this is, I can't prove this is just simply a Bob theory. So take it for what it is, throw it out, call me crazy. How many of our youth are listening to social media influencers in their 20s and 30s? And I'm sorry, these people just don't know anything yet. If you look at the progression of wisdom, and like our youth need 50-plus-year-olds speaking into their lives, not 20-somethings on YouTube. That's a broad generalization, but it's an opinion. That's all it is. Okay? Okay.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for the presentation, and thanks to Dave Dorner, because I have read your book, Leading to the One.
Oh, thank you.
I'm surprised I didn't hear about VUCA with 2 C's.
Yes, you have read it.
I have read it. My question is, this movable line in the one-on-one conversations and dealing with humanity, what are your comments about becoming too familiar as it relates to your employees and having to back up and then be a leader and possibly discipline?
Yeah, actually, I don't think being too familiar is a concern or a problem. No different than it would be, well, then I can't discipline my children if I get too familiar with them, right? And I think the reality of it is probably the opposite of that. The more familiar, actually, the more of these type of interactions we're having, the more comfortable those conversations are going to be relative if we have to do discipline. And by the way, our theory says if you're doing these types of one-on-ones regularly, you can eliminate PIP programs and performance improvement stuff, and probably even some of your review process, because it's live. We're talking live. If there's something that's out of line, let's deal with it in the root cause before it gets to this stage where now I have to enforce discipline. I think we can get ahead of it. So I'm not worried about becoming too familiar. Okay?
I would tend to agree. The humanity piece sort of gets involved there, and you never even get to the discipline.
That's
I would
right.
agree with that.
Yep. Okay, last question. We have time for one more, Scott? Okay.
Actually,
It has to
just-
be multiple choice, though.
It's just a comment.
Okay, good.
So I'm Michelle Marltz with the Lucas County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and we've actually worked with your company for a couple years now.
Yes.
Reached out and brought you guys in because we had a lot of work to do on our leadership, and it has been great working with Nikki very directly. Appreciate her. Where's Julia? I'm a captain, Julia. That might be not shocking for anyone who knows me. But anyways, it's been very helpful to help move that needle. We brought leadership training, different things in over the years, and I didn't feel like the needle was moving in increasing the capacity of our leaders to lead and not manage. And so it really has been making a big difference. We have a ways to go, but I just wanted to say thank you. And one of the very personal things, my COO is very new, and so her and I wouldn't say we were butting heads, but there was probably some frustration with each other, and so Nikki did a really good job of using our predictive index and some of the other concepts to, I'm very big picture, I have lots of ideas, and oh, well, let's do this, and then I like to say, okay, you implement in details, and I don't like being in the weeds, and I was being pulled into the weeds, so I was frustrated, I was frustrating her, and it just has really helped not have so much frustration, but to understand each other. And so if you use the concepts and really take it to heart and all of the ideas and stuff, it really does make a difference. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle, right?
Yes.
Yes. And isn't Nikki great?
She's amazing.
Yes. She is amazing. Okay, as we wrap up, just one other quick thing I want to share with you. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here. Appreciation for what you do as Rotarians in our community. You have a QR code here. You can pre-order our next book by this title for free. We'll ship it to you wherever you want us to ship it to. It's a gift from us. It's also on your table. If you'd rather take that with you, we're not going to sell your name. We're not going to do any of that. We just want you to have the resource available to you. Soon we're going to be launching a website you'll be able to go to for free and get more resources on this topic. We want to get as much of that out as possible. Last little secret. When you see the 5 steps for creating expectations, it was actually based on the 4-way test. Yes, I said to Nikki one day, I remember as a Rotarian, the 4-way test, these expectations we do, is it specific? Is it realistic? Will they know what winning looks like? Can I connect it to why? And how can I help? So as you think about the 4-way test, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And is it beneficial to all concerned? So thank you for having us.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Always good to have a Rotarian speak to us. Why don't you stay up here for 1 minute? I just want to present you with a gift for speaking with us today. We appreciate your time. In appreciation, we'd like to present you with this copy of Historic Tales of Toledo, which was authored by our own past president, Clint Mock. And we will also make a donation in your name to the Polio Plus effort to eradicate polio from the face of the earth. As you know, Rotary is key in doing. So again, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. And I have a gift for each of the people that asked the question. So if you want to let them know that. Appreciate that, yeah.
And then also for people who ask questions, Bob has a gift for you afterwards too. So come up and see him. All right, join us next Monday, August 18th, when Brent Bain, the newly promoted associate head coach from the Toledo Walleye, speaks to us. Next week's meeting will be at the Huntington Center as Glass City is taken. And please read the spoke so that you can find out about parking situations for Huntington. We'll be back here in the Glass City Center on August 25th when we'll be joined by the District Governor, Pam Brumbaugh. There's one committee meeting today. I saw Zara, she is here, so the membership committee will meet in Summit A. Please go out and unite some folks for good. Thank you, we're adjourned.